Okay, so Foundations Math 22.1. This is number 5, C and D. So this is a good question. It says, in each diagram, is AB parallel to CD? So is AB, let's take a look at C. Is AB, this line right here, is that parallel to CD? So are these two lines parallel? Now there's no markings, so you can't just look at the markings, you know, like in other places like this. There's no little red arrow heads there. So what you have to do is you have to examine the angle measures that are given. You have to look carefully at the relationship between those two angles and decide whether they should be equal for parallel lines or basically supplementary, right? There's really only the two, equal or supplementary. Now, what is the relationship between this angle and this angle? Well, this is inside, this is outside, okay? So back in A, these are corresponding angles, right? So if we look at A, these should be equal if the lines are parallel and those angle measures are not equal. So in A, AB is not parallel to CD because they should be equal measure. Now over here, we have to do a little extra work. So 86 is the same as G, right? Because they're opposite angles. Also, 86 and the angle AGH should be supplementary. So we can use that as well. Now, G is not corresponding with 94, but it is, what is it called? It's called same side exterior. Did we talk about that in a lesson? Same side exterior? Now, did we talk about the relationship between same side exterior?
I do not.
Let's go back and check. I think we mentioned them. Did we say anything about?
We talked about
We talked about same side interior and opposite side exterior. Opposite side exterior. Okay. So we didn't clearly outline this, but you know what? It's not that hard to figure out. So I know that G is 86. I also know that H should be 86 if these are parallel. Now, if H is 86 and these are parallel, because if H is 86, then that means that 86 plus 94 should be what?
180.
Should be 180. So does 86 plus 94 give us 180?
Yeah.
80 and 90 gives us 170. 6 and 4 gives us another 10. So that's 170 plus 10, that's 180. Oh, okay. So then if G is 86 and H is 86, and that matches up to be supplementary with 94, then everything lines up for those lines to be parallel. Does that make sense? So we can say the lines are parallel. Now, explain, you could explain that as well. You could also say that opposite side exterior angles, right here, opposite side interior, opposite interior angles, they should be equal for parallel lines. So if H is 86, then you can say that the lines are parallel as well. So there's two ways you could kind of get around it. So you just have to kind of list those steps. Now you asked about D as well. So D, I think probably the best thing to do with D would be to, do a couple things. We could find out what G is. That's pretty easy. It should be 138, right? That it is 138. There's no question there. Now if A and B and C and D are parallel, that means that 138 plus 41, because they're same side interior, to parallel lines should add up exactly to 180. So does 138 and 41 add up to 180? No, that looks like it adds up to 179. So because that doesn't add up to 180 here, then you can say in D that the lines are not parallel. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
One question.
Yep.
Do we have to mention something like corresponding angles are same?
In the explanation, okay, so again, in the explanation, the opposite angles are always equal.
Yeah.
So that one, now if you use corresponding angles, okay, you would have to show that H, in order for A and B and C and D to be parallel, you would have to prove that H is 138.
Yeah.
Now, what you do know, because you don't know that for sure, but what you do know is that 41 plus H should be 180. That is always true, no matter if these lines are parallel. So if you can determine that H should be 139, then you can say because corresponding angles H and 138 are not equal, then the lines are not parallel. So that's another way you could do that.
I know. My question is, just can you show us the process, like how you should write the?
How you should actually write it? Well, you could just list, you could just write that. You could list that in point form.
Can
There.
I just say like because
Because of supplementary angles, H should be 139. 180 minus 41, H is equal to 139.
Yeah,
Then second line, because H and 138 are not equal,
yeah.
and they are corresponding angles, then A and
So
B
we
is
have
not
to
parallel
measure-
to CD.
We have to add 1 and